welcome back to War Day. We're here to talk about the rise of the Green Tide, as the Orks have come out with 3 undefeated GT wins this past weekend. The Orks are really shining. Is it too bright? Will it really catch the attention of GW and Nerfhammer? Or are Orks just catching lucky stride because they some blue gits? So we're going to talk about the path to victory. We're going to also show off some of the other successful Ork players that played this weekend. But of course, like always, let's start with our sponsor, the Baron of Dice, that allows us to do our paint competition. So shout out to Baron of Dice for helping us do that, and of course for the WAAAGH Tactic Dice. So check them out in the description, 5% off, because nobody likes taxes. And of course, it helps us do our paint competition. So check out the Discord and the Facebook for that. That way you can get involved in that, because we love to get the community involved in anything related, hobby and all. So let's get back to the tactics. So let's start off with, of course, Meta Monday. So our boring Meta Monday out here with the stats for us, hooking us up as Ork players. So Ork players coming out with, too much. We have, I zoomed in too much for y'all. That's good. So we have 38. I think I have numbers overall of number. There we go. I had it too much. So for War Horde, we're sitting at 43 players sitting out there. 28 for Bully Boyz. Actually, I have the numbers wrong right here. Sorry, guys. Sorry. I had a little bit of brain fart by zooming out. This is how many players the wins were on the right. Excuse me. So we go back. I was looking at the wrong number there. So after so many times I do that, still hilarious. So we have 17 War Horde players with a total of 38, like I said, of how many total players there were for Orks this weekend. Green Tide showing a 64% win rate, but it really was only 2 players that were out there shining, but one of them actually won an actual GT. And then we have Cult of Speed with a 60% win rate with the 1 player showing up. But as of the last 3 weeks, they were looking at a 30% win rate. Bully Boyz, we have 9. They're the second most popular used Ork detachment, barely, because Dreadmob is always right behind them, like just about every single weekend, which is pretty cool to see, in my opinion. I'm a Bully Boy fan, but we actually did have 2 Bully Boyz lists go X and 1, and one of them ended up winning a GT, which we're going to cover today. We have a The Hunt player, simply just one, going 50%. Good on you, Hut buddy. War Horde 17, of course, the most popular. 4 players going X and 1. And 1 player actually winning the event. And then we have Dreadmob with a 37% win rate, 0 showings overall, and 8 players for popularity. We know that Dreadmob can sometimes just be a meme, very fun to play, can up and down, has great potential, but requires a lot of dice play, very interactive, very time consuming. So shout out to all the Ork players that did very well. I think the fact that Ork players have 3 viable detachments overall, because of course maybe Dreadmob didn't show out this weekend, but we've seen other weekends they have. So you have Green Tide, Bully Boyz, War Horde, and Dreadmob. So you have 4 detachments that are quite viable to play as an Ork player. Not many codexes I can even think of off the top of my head that can play this many different variety of Orks. Of their faction and their detachments. Maybe like Chaos Reigns, I think we do pretty solid now that I thought of it for a second. But overall, Orks being able to use 4 different detachments means, 1, that's fantastic for us that do play any of these detachments. But for those exceptions of the Hunt and Cult of Speed, I think GW is really not going to give you any attention, or us any of attention, because we're already doing so well with what we have, right? And sometimes GW just doesn't want to overtune, overtweak things. There's so many factions in 40K that can't play that many detachments. Therefore, us being the exception as we are, means GW is probably not going to go our way to making us even more of an exception. So that being said, let's start looking at one of our winners as of this weekend. So starting off with our first Ork undefeated list, we have Peter Herbild, sorry if I mess up your name, at the Hygid Events GT number 3. This was in Denmark. Why they ran Denmark instead of Denmark? I thought it was E. With 34 players, they are obviously going on the WTC terrain, and so that's pretty cool. This does not lead to that. It shows a little bit of the picture of the terrain. They have good, solid L-shaped terrains, very official WTC terrain. Really like to see that. And so let's take a look at our boys list here real quick. But before I do that, excuse me, everybody. I was going to show off other successful Ork players. So we have Sam White out of San Antonio at the San Antonio Shootout War Horde. He went 4-1 with triple kill rigs, 2 MSU, so small units of Def Copters, and a wagon. So he had just a straight up big boy parking lot there. We have Thomas Phillips Howard. Shout out to you, buddy. I know you're in our Discord, so love that. He's a Broadsword Gaming 40K ITC seasonal major. He went 4-1 with Bully Boyz. He ran 4 trucks, Mandos, and Mega Knobs. So he said he really liked having Kommandos on the list for being up in his presence at the table, being able to really control the zone, score points, bait enemies. So he really liked that. So shout out to you, buddy, for being and doing so well. And then we have Ian Wilson from, of course, at the same event at the ITC Seasonal Major, going 4-1 as well. He was running War Horde with triple Beast Bosses, 4 trucks, and 3 kill rigs. So that dude went over the top. So shout out to you, get to your successful walls. I believe there was one more org player that might have done 4x and 1 that I couldn't find your list. So shout out to you. I'm sorry if I didn't catch you, but thank you to you guys. Great job to everyone involved. But let's get back into Peter. Excuse me. So Peter, War Horde list from the Hydra Events GT. Number 4, actually. I call it 3. Right. So we have War Horde. We have a Beast Boss, a Big Mech with Follow Me Lads. He's carrying a Drilla and a Tractor Blaster. We have Gaz Gultraka, followed by a War Boss with Cunning but Brutal, and then 2 of additional War Bosses. We have the small 10-man unit of Beast Snagger Boys, followed by 2 20-man bricks of boys. Of course, one of them has a War Boss and the Big Mech, and then the other one simply has a War Boss. 2 trucks, 2 battle wagons with ARD cases and cannons, and then all the other fixings as well for free war gear. A burner boy unit, a 10-man unit of flash kits, 3 11-man units of grots, 2 mega knobs with twin kill saws for Gaz for his bodyguards, and then 1 5-man unit of knobs. So as you can see, kind of blatantly, you can put the boys going in the battle wagons. You can put the burner boys and the knobs in a truck to act as a SWAT team. You can put flash kits in a truck, or you can put Beast Boss plus the Beast Snagger Boys in a truck. Ultimately, something's going in reserve. Most of the time, these high-level players understand how much you would want reserves, and Orks should utilize reserves. Therefore, I expect the burner boys obviously can go in reserve. The flash kit 10-man unit can go in reserve. And even one of these grot units can go in reserve. So let's take a look at what Peter ended up having for his path to victory. So it was pretty cool to see that, and this is on WTC, so I think that's pretty interesting and different. So our American lads, pay attention. We have, of course, Leagues of Voltan within Einherde Champion. Another Einherde Champion. One has a Praising Glare, the other ones have Wayfarer Grace. We have Hearthkin Warriors. I just like that they can combat squad, like they can split their unit once they have a Sagittar. They have 2 3-man units of Thunderkin. You know, they can actually put some decent output out there, and the fact that they're T6, 3 wounds, they're kind of annoying sometimes to actually displace as an orc player, but not the worst thing. Small unit of Berserkers. If this changes to big bricks, you know, this might happen. Shout out to my boy Jeff. Don't be surprised. Their feel no pains kind of matters, and they can go out and kind of get in the way and muck things up. But as it is right now, they can only run a 10-man unit, a 5-man unit, excuse me. They do have that mortar that can reduce your mobility, but they have to actually like hit you with it, and it hits on 4s, so it's not really like that useful. Or 5s, I think, because it's indirect if it's not seeing you. So he has 2 units of those, 2 5-man units of those, 2 5-man units of Hearthguard, and then 3 units of Pioneers, followed by 2 land fortresses, and then 3 Sagittars. Dang, this is just all jumbled up. And if you're looking at this, right, so much. So a lot of the time, these people, when they're Leagues of Voltan, they have a lot of variety, obviously, as you know. It's surprised you don't see a brick of their Hearthkin, because that's usually a lot of their volume damage output. Since they don't have a big brick of Hearthkin like that, it means that this brick isn't dropping down, doing sustain 2, putting it on oath on one of the boys' bricks, because they could put a grenade launcher +1 to hit, +1 to wound, and then sustain 2, and because obviously they're going to grudge in you, and then they could just really do a number on a boys unit with a blast as well, of course, on a brick of boys. The fact that they don't have one big throttling like brick of Terminators means they can't just pick up a unit of boys reliably, so they're going to have a hard time, because Leagues of Voltan, just if they roll bad, they just roll bad. If you just spike saves, they're just gone. And a lot of the time they want to put these fortresses right up in the middle of the table, and these Sagittars, which you know, when you're playing a War Horde style of list, you can kind of deal with that. And I don't think the WTC favors too much of the land fortresses for placement, so they're going to go in kind of obvious positions, and the Orc player can stage up and kind of smash into you. I do think Leagues of Votann can do really well into Orcs, but it has to be like a particular list on missions, and the Orc player has to like not know how to handle them with all their scouting and such. The fact that he didn't have Jaegers could be a thing too. You know, Jaegers help as infiltration. You can see he doesn't have any infiltration. He kind of does get a little bit parking lotty with these 2 wagons and 2 trucks. It's not too bad, of course, but just saying with Peter's list, you know, we have to observe that it's not all easy all the time, right? So he had to set that up. So shout out to you, Peter. Good job there with the Leagues of Votann. Then he goes into Death Guard, and he put just more Tarion at the top. Guys, there's going to be a lot of Death Guard we're covering today, so be aware of that. Get your notes out for Death Guard. Get your notes out. Be aware of them, because if you're planning to go to any events, understand that you're probably going to see a Death Guard players there. So we have a Biologist Putrefier, a Foul Blightspawn, Mortarion, and then Typhus. So these guys will go together into one unit, the Foul Blightspawn and the Biologist Putrefier. They get lethal, critical 5+. They also get fight first and such like that, and then they get really good, cool flamers. Typhus, I have his data sheet here, I'm pretty sure, so I can show you guys. Oops, this thing shut up. Bam. I don't know what these weird things are. Sorry, I'm using WAAAGH because I'm poor. Okay, so we have Typhus, T6, 2-up armor. He's a Terminator, 4-up invuln. He's you know, he's pretty durable for what he does, but really what he's cool is that when he's leading a unit, when he's leading a unit, each time a melee unit targets a unit, subtract 1 from the hit roll. So remind you, that does stack with their contagion aura, right? So that means they're going to take -1 ballistic skill, -1 to hit. That means you're going to be -2 to hit actively. If there's a Nurgling unit there as well, that means they can even add another additional hit on there. So even if you have a +1, they're taking you back to -1. So that's pretty not cool. On top of that, he just draws some mortal wounds, and then he fights pretty good himself. He's pretty cheap. Definitely take a look out for him. I think he can also lead Poxwalkers. And a lot of those, he's leading Death Shrouds currently, and we'll show you Death Shrouds in a second. But, you know, he can be an either or. So we have a Brick of Plague Marines. Like I said, they're going to be with those 2 other characters for fight first, popped up in a Rhino, ready to come out, be really annoying. 2 10-man units of Cultist, followed by a Predator Destructor. Did I pull a Predator? Yes, I did. So for this Death Guard Predator, be aware of these. These are very common for them as well. They do have infantry, and against infantry they get an additional armor penetration, and then of course, you know, they can have the contagion to make you -1 of your armor save on other armies, not on us necessarily. They don't care to do that to us really, but other armies they can do that to. That means that you're going to see it just on their list, is my point, right? Which is a basic Predator. It's kind of like a Rhino durability, almost just more wounds. I think it's one more toughness too. Yeah, and a T10. So be aware of these. They can get additional AP and stuff like that. Won't really matter unless you're playing Dread Mob or Bullies. Then we have a Death Shroud Terminator brick right here. Of course, when they're being led by a unit like Typhus and things of this list, but it's only 1 Death Shroud unit. You know, God forbid more. Shout out, hint, hint. They do get -1 to wound. They have sweep attacks and just, you know, damage 2 attacks. They do get lethal with those, just straight up lethal. That's pretty cool. And then their gauntlets are also flamer pistols that are anti-infantry pistols, like I said. So that's pretty brutal when you're going into Orks as well, because they're cleaning us up faster than we want to be cleaned up. And then 3 units of floated blow drones, because they'll just run up the field and spread the contagion. Only 1 small unit of Nurgling, so at least you know that -1 to hit isn't all over the table. And then 3 brigands of War Dog Brigands. This kind of acts as their firepower if they don't choose to bring more of the Terminator, the Predators, or the tanks that they have, Players Crawlers. So, you know, this was just a variety. You're going to see a lot of different versions of those Death Guard lists. Shout out to Peter for actually being able to take those out with War Horde. The fact that there wasn't additional Terminators and he brought all those Brigands, in my opinion, probably offset the matchup a little bit with just having too much firepower and not enough stuff to just stand in the way. Because Orc can throttle enough through pure volume to like chew through Plague Marines, chew through at least 1 unit of those Plague Terminators, because the WAAAGH critical 5+, the fact that our boy just had Gazgul Thraka, the fact that he had flash kits for like the Plague Marines, for example. He has ways that he can kill what was on the table, and trying to just get in their faces. So he definitely could do that. Gaz really helps in that matchup with Death Guard, from my experience, you know. Going into, is that the same one? Did I just click the same one twice? No. And so this is again, so Death Guard. I think actually, shout out, I'm pretty sure he goes into Death Guard 3 times in this list. So that was his, right? So there's the list I just covered, a second one. Yes, we call him Mortarion. And then he goes into his third game. Yep. His third game is another Death Guard. So just keep in mind, Peter's going into 3 Death Guard lists. I probably could have mentioned that in the beginning, right? Sorry, I should have mentioned that in the beginning. Spoiler. So he has competitive Morty. Mind you, 3 Death Guard lists, and he went undefeated on WTC terrain. So we have a Biologic Putrefier, Lord of Virulence. I think I have him too. Malignant Plague Caster, another Malignant Plague Caster, and then Mortarion. Let me pull up exactly. I should have looked up earlier what he had, but I'll pull him up in a second. In the meantime, we have the Lord of Virulence. So he's another Terminator character. While leading this unit, and they make a range attack, you can reroll the wound roll. When a friendly Death Guard model makes an attack with the blast weapon, add 1 to the hit roll and ignore the benefit of cover. So he pretty much helps with, kind of like if it was indirect fire, for example, you help kind of negate indirect fire. And he himself has a good melee and good flamer for overall for what he is. Not too popular, but he is pretty cheap for like 65 points for like a Terminator body. Someone pull this Malignant Plague Caster up real quick, because was I messing up with his data sheet ability and calling someone else him? So he has Gift of Contagion where he does mortal wound, and he select enemy. They can be on a 2+ until the start of your next shooting phase. Each time a model in the enemy unit makes a melee attack, subtract 1 from the wound roll. Ooh. And then he has Pestilent Fallout. So in your shooting phase, if one or more of those attacks is made with the Plague Wind scored against the enemy infantry unit, you can subtract 2 from the movement and the advance and charge roll. So he has movement debuffs on the boys here, possibly from these Malignant Plague Casters. Sorry, I should have looked that up before the stream, but I didn't pass my eyes. And then we have Mortarion and then Typhus, like we just covered. 1 of those Bricks of Plague Marines followed by 2 Rhinos, 2 units of 10 cultists, 2 more of those Predator Destructors. Like I said, we just went over those. You're going to see a lot of them. Death Shroud Terminators, simply 1 brick here again, and then 3 drones, followed by a Nurgling, and then a Carnivore. So you can see these Death Guard lists are looking somewhat similar right now. That doesn't mean you should expect what everyone's used to are going to be the same, because Death Guard players are evolving and learning from what they should do. And what their weaknesses are, and sometimes I think it's taking too many allies, but it might be just they don't have an actual collection, right? So you can't really be down on it. And there's other matchups, right? People can't just tech just for orcs all the time. So when they have stuff like some of these carnivores and units that you're not too worried about as orc, like the destructors, even destructors do hurt. I'm not saying they don't. They just don't have the volume necessarily for orcs all the time. And we already kind of rely on taking just like invulns or dying. So their additional AP and stuff like that isn't something was like too captivating to us. Then they don't really pop like trucks reliably and stuff like that. So it's not really the good firepower into us, which is something to keep in mind. Respect the tools that they have that should be respected, like the Plague Marine brick, Mortarion. But even those units are killing like 1 orc unit a turn, maybe 2, if it's like small Storm Boys or something, right? Mortarion, even himself, sometimes can't. He can't kill everything on an orc list, and we have enough when you have Gaz and 20 Bricks of Boys to take their primary, beat the crap out of them, stay in the mission, score points as much as you can, take control of the board, and then by the time they do kill you, if they do kill you enough, you've already taken up more of the table. As you can see, even killing wagons wouldn't be necessarily too easy for them. Again, Morty's going into that's not really effective for them. So again, he pulls out another W against another Death Guard list, and you can see Death Guard list is looking somewhat similar. So our boy right here must have just a straight up good game plan into Death Guard. So I really, really respect it, Peter. Shout out to you. This is the 3rd Death Guard list he goes into his 4th round. We have a Biologist Putrefier, Lord of Contagion, Lord of Virulence again, Mortarion, and then Typhus. 1 Plague Prick. I didn't say that. Plague Marine brick, a Death Guard Rhino, a cultist, 210 command cultist unit, 3 destructors this time, only 1 Death Shroud Terminator brick, but another 3-man unit of Death Shroud Terminators, 3 floated blow drones, and then simply a Nurgling squad. I like this list a little bit more, but then again, you see a lot of these autocannon predator destructors. What I will say is going into something like Bully Boyz, those predator destructors will matter because they also get built-in las cannons as well. So when they target those Bully Boyz, of course you can say I'm an armor of contempt, I'm going to take cover and stuff like that, but they can still take you on some good saves because they can get additional AP, I think up to additional 2 AP if you're like on the objective, I believe. Could be something else, but I'm pretty sure. And so, like I said, we have to pay attention to what they're doing as they evolve in what they're doing. So shout out to him for taking these out. It's the same similar archetype of Death Guard that we've seen 3 times as he's gone into them 3 times for this list. So he definitely has a figured out. Peter, if you see this, shout out to you, homie. Great freaking job. And hopefully you can leave some notes in the comments if there's anything that I didn't cover about your Death Guard matchups. Then last but not least, he goes into Yernari. So he goes into a Yernari list, or Eldari, where he says it's called the Guns. So it was an Artark followed by Death Jester, Farseer, Fugan, and Yevrin. 2 units of the Kusar Vord Reapers, followed by a Guardian Defender, another brick of Storm Guardians, Wave Serpents, 2 units of the Dark Reapers with Death Reaper launchers. So those are, good at actually killing Battlewagons and stuff for effective 8 cheap points. So that is kind of scary. But then in return, I wouldn't say they have the volume to kill, the boys that get out. So we have Fire Dragons, 2 more Fire Dragons here. Again, these guys have fusion guns. So these are kind of like Meltas. I believe when they get out of transports, they get like reroll wounds or something. 5-man unit of Rangers, a 5-man unit of Striking Scorpions, 2 support guns, 2 units of Swooping Hawks, and then Warp Spiders. Right now, what can you imagine that you can see right here if this is Orkless is running at you? Sure, you're going to destroy the bricks of wagons. You're going to destroy the wagons at some point. Maybe even the trucks the next turn. But at that point, they're in wall range, and they're just running you down with 2 20-man unit bricks of boys. Flash gets are burning, shooting stuff away, possibly killing multiple 5-man units of Eldar. Of course, having burner boys can actually put you in range. You can come from the edge of the table from reserve and be like, all right, if you move, I'm going to overwatch you. And Flash gets in return as well are a good unit for that. So shout out to him for having the good tools for it. He ended up winning that game as well. Overall, I should have showed his overall score for each game. He hit 2 20s, 2 15s, and then 12 in the last mission. So it is cheeky because Eldar can, move shenanigans and score pretty well, but they're really not killing you as an orc player. You really just got to cover the distance to get in their face. If they can play a long, slow game and not really fight you in the middle, they will. So it is mission dependent. So shout out to Peter for pulling that one out. We'll take a look at this list one more time where we have a Beast Boss, a Big Mac with Follow Me Lads for additional speed, of course, Cunning but Brutal. On the War Boss, you have Gazgul Thraka, and then 2 additional War Bosses. 10-man unit of Beast Bosses, 2 20-man unit of boys, 2 trucks, 2 battle wagons with RKs, a burner boy unit, 10-man unit of Flash Kits, 3 11-man units of Gretchen, 2 Mega Knobs, and then a 5-man units of Knobs with Power Claws, of course. You can have SWAT teams here. I'm sure that Peter utilized strategic reserves for one of these units that he really appreciated, or even a Gretchen. So make sure you take advantage of that. And shout out to Peter Helbert for winning this GT at the Hydra GT number 4, as Orks needed that W, and we get some respect on the WTC scene. So shout out to any orc players that actually end up liking this, that are inspired to give something similar a try. Love to see it. Love to see the Big Mac making his appearance again ever since Brian Sepp, right? So let us move to the next orc list we're going to cover. We have Blue Ford with the Blue War Bully Boyz. So let's pull up where he was at. He was at the Battle Brothers GT. This was a 85-person event in the United States. So we have Blue Ford going undefeated with a 96, 86 to 90, 89, and a 99. Gosh, like right when you get those 99, you're like, oh, just 1 point. I want that 100, baby. I want that triple digits. So let's take a look at Mr. Blue Ford's Blue Wall. So we have Gazgul Thraka, Zodgrod Wartsnaga. Yes, guys, you're seeing Zodgrod Wartsnaga in a Bully Boyz list. Oof, love to see that. I really do. I'm a Zod fan right now, boys. So any excuse to see Zod. We have a Beast Boss with Ed Stompa. Pretty much an underrated enhancement right there. For 10 points, I like it. A little hard to get off because you do have to hurt somebody first to reroll the wounds. But he does have some support shooting on this list, so I'm sure he got it off. We have 2 war bosses. Then we have 2 units of 10 Beast Snagga boys, followed by a 22-man unit of Gretchen, of course, for Zodgrod, an 11-man unit of Gretchen, followed by Kommandos. Love to see the Kommandos. He brought the Power Claw, Breacher Ram, Burner, and the Rocket. So he did go pretty heavy on the special weapons. Some people choose not to because they don't feel like, rolling all the additional dice. But our Git did. He went in. The Mega Knobs had Power Claw and a Twin Kill Saw, so he can kind of choose his profile depending on what gas we're going into. 2 big bricks of knobs with power claws, the old-fashioned scalpel, as we used to call in the beginning of the edition. I love to actually see that he brought it. I'm so, unsure about this kind of unit in Bully Boyz because, it doesn't really break the strength threshold sometimes that you want it to. The amount of damage reduction in the game, what is it really killing for its point reduction that a 5-man can't do it? There's a good argument back and forth for this. I personally love these 10-man units. Of course, you can end up doing the shoulder ram with them and actually doing mortal wounds to people, so having a 10-man unit opens up that utility. So you have grenades, you have the grenade ramming potential, you can cut them down more likely because the unit actually stays alive. So there are arguments for it being in Bully Boyz. I'm just saying it's been turned away from for a while. So very interesting from Blue Ford there. Would like to hear more about that if I ever do. 3 units of 5 Storm Boys. I love that. That's just adding additional advance and charge to the game, but also scoring. So he has a lot of units on the table, and he still has mobility. And of course, like I always say, you have the grenades. In the Bully Boyz, you're going to have a lot of additional CP. Not that you're going to always not use it, because you should use it. What I'm saying is because you're not relying on like the same sequence of stratagems every turn, you're open to other stratagems that are kind of overlooked sometimes as Orc players that we can appreciate, such as rapid ingress, such as grenades, such as the shoulder charging mortal wound potential from this. Just doing the simple reroll charges can be kind of nice. Having obvious CP so you can counter attack when it can cost a lot, because people might make it cost 3 CP because you're in the range now. Bully Boyz makes it so you're like, I already have a CP, so it's cool. Of course, heroic interventions, because Mega Knobs don't mind heroic intervening because they don't have to die. In this case, there's really not a lot of Mega Knobs on this list, surprisingly, which was really, really unique, right? Because a lot of the time when people are building out these Bully Boyz lists, they're like, I need to bring Mega Knobs, like I just have to. And he really didn't. He went for big bricks of 10-man knobs. So really cool on that. He had a 3-man unit of Death Coptas for 90 points. They've reached the point where they're just straight up bringing them just for their scoring potential, deep strike, being annoying in skirmish units, being kind of bait. There's so many different reasons why Death Copters is actually pretty cool to bring, mortal wound potential, stuff like that. They can shoot, like I said, so they can help you set off Ed Stompa. A couple rockets go off in there. Love to see that. Then he brought 4 units of trucks. Of course, the MSU truck spam has been around since Index Hammer, my boys. So if you got a bunch of trucks, start building lists around that. If you're having a hard time and maybe you just want to play some MSU, more linear kind of game style, staging up trucks is getting out, walling just feels really good as an Orc player. But the fact that he had Zod was a really cool utility piece and just so low on Mega Knobs. And he had Kommandos. So guys, I've made videos on Kommandos. I've made videos on Zod, right? So I made units on Kommandos, Zod. Both of those, I think, have 2 units of videos, that I've made. So check those out because they're so overlooked by Orc players. But having a scout, having infiltration, board control, presence, pressure, bait, scoring potential, super important for Orcs, which are an army that likes to put pressure early, put a lot of the points up, and then kind of dwindle down in the game. So having just units that are ready in position also stop you from getting jailed in your position of your deployment zone makes a huge difference, especially if you're playing something like Bully Boyz, where you're like, I'm only playing one sequence of the game, boy. I ain't shooting much, so I need to get up there. Having something like Zod helps, because on that first wall, he can go in with this 12-inch movement, and then the Kommandos as well, or something that's inside of a truck and just disembark and start running around. Just to look at it again. Yeah, because he had he had boys and beast bosses, and beast snagga boys. Yeah, so he was just running at people with just units of waves of dudes. I love that. Dismember from trucks. So let's take a look at his path to victory. Going with his first game, he says just copying a winning list. I don't know if he's true if he did that, but that would kind of make sense for why he lost round 1. I was kidding. I don't advise, like, anytime I'm telling people showing these lists, I'm not advising you copy people's lists. This is to inspire you and to encourage an archetype that maybe you may favor, but I don't want you to actually just straight up copy it. You should be built towards what you favor with just a little bit of sprinkle of someone else, right? The last 100, 500 points should be you and what you favor. So we have Be'lakor, a great unclean one with the 4 of Feel No Pain, Keeper of Secrets with Soul Eater, Shalexi Hellbane, and a Mask of Slanesh. We have Plague Bearers. Of course, they have Sticky Objective, pretty durable for what they are. Some 3 units of 3 Fiends, very fast but really fragile into Orks. And then 3 units of Screamers. They can hit, but it's not really reliable. They hit on 4s and stuff. They're like these little flying stingrays in the air. Everything comes down to the fact that the Keeper of Secrets and Shalaxi just want to run up and shellax, but they're getting shellaxed by Gaz and the Beast Bosses having double walls in this list. These kind of armies just kind of have to go forward, and see there's really not a lot left, right? He's gonna put the Plague Bears in his home deployment. These little fiends are gonna come forward, and the Screamers. This is where you would take advantage of Storm Boys. You take advantage of just having trucks. Death Cops just feel pretty good here because those are, I'm pretty sure those are 3 wound units. Maybe I should look that up. I'm pretty sure the Fiends might be 3 wound units. But he's going to come out to get you. Of course, even Zod's unit with their pistols, shooting their pistols into Screamers, getting +1 to hit, +1 to wound, and just pop, 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 pop. You're going to just kill these little demon units. Feels really good. And then you're running onto their home objective with Zod, and one of these greater demons has to turn around, or you're getting in the way with Zod, or you're getting in the way with all these Storm Boys because you know where you're blocking off the fat boy, great unclean one, so he can't bog you down, and you're killing the Keeper of Secrets and then jumping him at the end, or just straight up ignoring him. So there's ways you can really play around the demons when they're just focused on like, hey, I'm playing a mixed detachment, right? If they're playing mixed, to me, I'm not as strong in my opinion as sticking to either mono corn or mono nurgle. So he's like, I want to have defense against getting shot at, and in this case, you ain't getting shot at, my boy. So you ain't getting shot at. So you got crumped, which is cool. So let's take a look at the second game. Shout out to you for that one. What's the score here? 96-point win rate. Shout out to you, buddy. Great job, Ford. So then he goes into his second game. I believe this is the second game, right? I was going so fast, I shouldn't have done that. Second game, I believe this is Tau. Yeah. He goes into Tau Monka. So he has the Cadre Fireblade, Dark Strider, followed by 2 units of Reachers, 2 units of Devilfish, Crisis Battlesuit unit, 3 units of Hammerhead gunships, but no, they do all have the same weapon. Sorry. They all have burst cannons, ion cannons, and seeker missiles, all 3 of them. A Pathfinder squad, actually 2 of those, plus 2 piranhas. Piranhas are sleepy awesome. The fact that they can like make you take battle shock when you don't want to. For example, like if you want to take some kind of defensive ability in that turn, they're like, nah, take a battle shock. You're like, oh god, it sucks. 2 units of Riptide battle suits, and then 3 units of stealth, followed by Vespid. Those uppy downy new guys they got. We'll say it right now. Having Zod and Kommandos in this matchup is a huge deal. Huge deal. The fact that you can make space for Zod to reliably just say, I'm going to go up, I'm going to wall, even if I want to turn 1, not only does it give you defensive stuff for your trucks and whatever's trying to stage up and move up aggressively, but it means Zod can possibly just straight up go, I'm going to move up, move the Kommandos up. Also, if you want to move into line of sight of Kommandos, that's fine. Whatever that is, I'm going to move up into, make a big charge into it, and then just touch all your trucks, or and Tau versions of trucks and their vehicles, their transports, some of their infantry. Just start tagging everything, hold them in their deployment zone, and then come in with another wall. Easier said than done. I don't know the mission, I don't know the deployment, stuff like that, but that's really how you would want to set that up. And having that combo of Kommandos, Zod, and then all your vehicles moving forward, disembarking, attacking you, gas just running down the field, be able to put the pressure on Tau makes a big deal. They're the army that wants to go later in the game with you and then table you. 83-point win there. So I'm assuming it's because he just ran up at him, got stuck in, maybe still eventually got killed and pushed out, but he scored enough and killed enough to keep the points down. Or it could have just been a not favorable scoring mission, right? Then we go into his third game. where he goes into Ork, the mirror matchup. So this one's pretty cool because you have 2 walls. So you can, decide to use one defensively and then, meet them. And then the next one you can use to overrun them as an Ork player, right? So we have a War Horde list followed by 2 Beast Bosses, another Zodgrod Schwarzenegger. Ooh, the Battle of the Zods. That was corny. All right, 3 units of Beast Snagger. God, I lied. 1, 2, 3, 4 units of Beast Snagger boys. 1 truck. 1 unit of Death Copters, a big brick of Flash Kits, followed by 2 5-man units of Flash Kits, a big brick of Gretchen, of course, 1 10-man unit of Gretchen, triple kill rigs, and 2 units of 3 Squighog boys. I do like, the kill rigs, of course. Kill rigs are doing great right now. Even having Snagger boys in there without beast bosses, can totally work. So the fact that he has multiple where he can just like throw some up there to fight is pretty cool. Lacking AP is something interesting here. Having to kill gas can be a little bit interesting here, right? Having gas and double walls means you're kind of just punching straight through this Ork list. And the fact that they have the Battlewagons means it's like how are you really cracking them reliably other than you running into them with your beast bosses trying to pop them and then everything else kind of responding into you. Of course, this is where I've actually talked about if 2 different people are playing Orks and someone has the wall, when are you guys calling the wall? Who did to declare it first? Ultimately, you guys roll to see who declares first, which does matter because if you're the bully boy person, you can kind of just wait and be like, are you calling your wall to the other Ork player? And he could be like, yeah. And then you're like, all right, I'm just not going to attack you. I'm just going to screen you this turn. And then I'm going to wall twice after that and just run you over. It's like, oh, gosh. So you do want to actually roll for that and play that correctly sometimes. Sometimes it can matter. So then we go into the 4th game. Shout out there for winning the Ork matchup in the 3rd round. That was a 90-point win. Then we go into the 4th game where he goes into Astronomic Totem. And the guy said, no more BS because, I'm pretty sure that Quellen's got nerfed by here. So we have the Canadian Command Squad followed by Gaunt's Ghosts. So I'm pretty sure I pulled those guys up right here for you. We can look at those guys in a second. Lord Sol Leontis, a Military Tempestus Command Squad, 3 tank commanders because now they can give out orders. Canadian Shock Troops, 2 units of Catachans because of their scouting potential, and they can go in chimeras like we can do with our trucks with Zod, for example, but they can do it with just straight battle line. Pretty cool. Then we have Adelan Rough Riders who can come back to life once they die because they have the regiment, I think, keyword, I believe. An Ogren Squad, pretty cool. 60 points. That's kind of nice, for just 3 little dudes that can fight, combined arms. Regimental attaches where they can go with the commanders, I believe. We have a Scout Sentinel, 1, 2 units of the Quillon bricks, followed by a big brick of Tempestus Scions, which go with the command squad, so they can drop down, re-roll hits, get orders on that turn, have a bunch of special weapons, really throttle into you and destroy you when that one go turn, right? Because they have to kill some of you as a guard player sometimes. And then 2 5-man units of Tempestus Scion squads. Again, this is where having Kommandos and Zod and be able to call that early game WAAAGH to push them back and into them, while then you pull up with your reliable, more killy stuff. Can actually be a huge factor. I don't know it for a fact because I must be honest, as much as I've been theory crafting and running things, I didn't run Kommandos and Zod and too many Bully Boys other than when me and Mark Perry were talking about it in that one video. And Mark Perry was talking about doing the pressure on that and having multitudes of this, but Blue Horde was able to pull this off with simply 1 unit of Zod and Kommandos. So I like that. It was innovation. So very nice. I like that, these ideas have been proven all the way through, but it takes a keen war boss to really amplify that and execute on it. So shout out to Blue Horde for taking, the best of everything that Orks got and maximizing it for Pariah Nexus, because I think it's very important. And then last but not least, he goes into Talent Empire. Help me step, bro. I'm stuck. I bet you are stuck because you want to be stuck in your deployment zone. We have commanders out of oops, hold on. I wanted to show off for the guard. See, this is why normally I do it so early. For Gaunt's Ghost. This is for Gaunt's Ghost for the guard list. Just keep in mind, it's 6 miles. They get fight first, infiltration, lone op, and stealth, and they get uppy downy because if they're not engagement range, they can go up and down. When they are get shot at, they get the benefit of cover as well. So they're just really annoying. They get a benefit of a bunch of different profiles. Like I said, they get lone up. They can fight all right because they get like 13 punches, as you can see here, hitting pretty reliably with low strength, but it still ends up working out for them. Just keep an eye out for them. Very shifty and conniving kind of unit that they can use. So pretty cool. Shout out to that. I just wanted to pull that out as well for the guard list. And then we have this tile list in round 5. So just want to pull that out so I didn't forget. Commander Shadow Sun, Cold Star Battlesuit, Dark. Oh, what is he playing? So you got Kao Yun, this boy's second half of the game. This one is the less popular, I believe. Maybe I'm wrong, but I believe the less popular version. I think this is saying 2 to hit in the later part of the game. So this is very important that he has Kommandos and Zod, like I said, to call that early game 1 and start jumping on them before they get their rules, before they get in position to attack. We got Shadow Sun, Commander, Cold Star Battlesuit, Dark Strider, 2 Breacher squads, Devilfish, Crisis Battlesuits, Ghost Keel, Hammer, 2 Hammerhead gunships. One has the railgun and the other one has the ion cannon. Crutes, Pathfinders, Riptide, Sky Ray gunship, Stealth Battlesuit, Stealth Battlesuit, Stealth Battlesuit. Keep in mind, that means they have their own infiltration, right? So, rolling off, go first, position everything. But it is cool because, like I said, you got to know your Zod unit with its pistols and its fighting potential can kill a bunch of these stealth units if they try to just straight up railroad block you. And you can take advantage of them getting close to you by just charging into them. Going first is a huge advantage if you stage aggressively with the Kommandos and Zod, because remember, your Kommandos can't be overwatched. Which is Tao's main defense if they can't just stand in your way. So it could be interesting if they did an early game WAAAGH here and then take the second one when they stage up, because even if you don't really touch all of their killing, like their guns and everything, their guns get pointed at Zod and the Kommandos that next falling turn, possibly even when you have that wall. Zod unit's pretty hard to kill when you don't have sustain 2 yet, and they're -1 to wound at all times, and during the wall especially, with the 5-up invul, and then you stage up everything else on your turn. You run into them and you charge, and you're like, oh, here's Gaz, and you go to kill the Gaz, and his guys have a feel no pain. Then you have Makari and this 2-up invul, and you're like, what the heck? And then the knobs get in there and they're -1 to wound, and they start beating you up, and they have an invul. And so it's like a downhill kind of cool thing. Put 99 points up on there. Great job by Mr. Blue Ford with his very high pressure, no mega knob types, almost no mega knobs. Of course, he has a Gad's bodyguard, but no like independent mega knob list. So love to see very unique Bully Boyz archetype, very unique list. So I wanted to give a shout out to the Blue Tide because I love this. I can actually see myself trying to run something somewhat similar. Not sure about the 2 bricks of 20 boys, very 2 bricks of 10 knobs right there. That's something that I've moved away from knobs. So what does chat think? What do you guys think in the description? Community watching this, love Blue Ford's list. We have Gazgul Traka, Zodgrod Wartsnaga, 1 Beast Boss with Ed Stampa, 2 War Bosses, 2 TAM units of Beast Snagga boys, followed by Zod's Super Runts, the 22-man Grot unit, the 10-man Grot unit, 11-man Grot unit, a Commando unit with Power Claw, Reacher Ram, Burner, and Rocket, 2 Mega Knobs, 2 big bricks of knobs with Power Claws, 3 5-man units of Storm Boys, a small unit of Death Copters, and then 4 trucks for the high pressure Blue Ford pace. Whoa! For the Blue Ford, the Bully Boyz. So let's talk about our third war boss, where we have John Holbrook with the rise of the Green Tide. So here, Green Tide has made its appearance once again. The great menace to the Imperium, to the 40K universe as a whole, because when we were too powerful, mixed in with Bully Boyz, everybody in their mama were complaining about orcs. So, John is going to bring that all back. Thanks, John. I'm just kidding. So we're really happy to see this, guys. Bully Green Tide has made their appearance again. You can check out 2 of these games and War Games Live, game round 6 and round 5. So check that on War Games Live. You can see John in action getting this list done. High pressure, high stakes, a lot of good moments in these games. Time was definitely a thing that he had to manage. So shout out to John. Let's take a look at where he was at. So it was the Utah Open. So it was a 112 person event. So big old event. Shout out to the other orcs that were here. And John Holbrook right there, 6-0, baby. That looks beautiful. Looks beautiful, doesn't it? Let's take a look at this Green Tide. So we have Pain Boy, 3 of them. 1 of them with Bloodthirsty Belligerents. Then 3 War Bosses, followed by 2 Weird Boys, 1 with Brutal Buck Cunning. 1 truck with 10 boys in it, usually. Now, one thing he did say on the live was that he likes to bring 1 truck simply to annoy the enemy for bringing it down. It's like, right? So when they bring it down, he's like, cool, my truck's back here, bro. Like, what's up? And then they're like, oh, that sucks. So it's kind of like the inverse to what we talked about with Grots, where I'm like, hey, bring a big brick of Grots, put it in your home field. That way, if they get Call the Horde, they can't recycle Call the Horde. They have to try to kill your brick of Grots that's on your home field objective, and they're screening your backfield, right? In this case, it works the other way, where he goes, I'm going to bring a truck, so they can't bring Call the Horde. I like that. And if you don't really care that game, you can even stage up, get the boys in places. So that's really cool. Love to see it. Then he has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, it was 5. Okay, 5 units. Let me try to put them all in there. 5 units of 20 boys. So he went all out here with the boys. And I think that's still the play. Now, someone did take fixed. Yeah. Oh no, it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, it was 6. So I'm counting again. Let me see. No, it couldn't be 6. It couldn't be 6 20-man units. Let me count. Correct. It's 5. Yes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, okay. Making sure. I was like, what the heck was I doing? I misspoke. Did I put that wrong on here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, I didn't. Okay, cool. Overthinking it. He had 5 20-man units of boys and a 10-man unit of boys. So it's funny because this comes up a lot in Discord and Facebook, things that I see in conversation where people are like, how many boys do I bring now in Green Tide? So John went straight up back to the 100 threshold. I'm at the 100 threshold. A lot of people sit somewhere between 60 to 100 now. So you let me know what you think in the description. I mean, in the comments, but I think it's pretty cool that he went all out. And there was an actual game, that Blood Angels game in the War Games Live, where he brought fixed of Call the Horde and Assassinate. So it does happen. So he does have 2 10-man units of Grots, followed by 2 bricks of Kommandos again. So guys, how many times have we covered Kommandos where Orks are just bringing them because they understand the importance of Orks and Pariah Nexus? So when I made the video of the Kommandos lead the way, I wasn't talking astray. You know what I'm saying? So we have those 2 units of Kommandos. We have the Breacher Ram, Burner Boys, Rockets, and the Power Claws, followed by 2 5-man units of Storm Boys. So let's take a look at John's path to victory. Oops, what am I looking up? Oh, there you go. John's path to victory with his Green Tide. Super exciting. So we go into this first game. Imperium Space Wolves with Gladius Task Force. He has a captain with Honor Veerment, captain with Gravis armor. He's pretty cool for his damage reduction and armor, artificer armor, pretty durable. A lieutenant with Fire Discipline. We have 1 big brick of Assault Intercessors, a brick of Aggressors with Flamestorm Gauntlets, Eradicators, 2 5-man units of Hellblasters, 1 3-man unit of Inceptors, a 5-man unit of Infiltrators, another 5-man unit of Infiltrators, Suppressors, so they give you like a -1 to hit when they hit you. Yeah, you know, they're not really that reliable for anything, but for 75 points, they're all right. 3 Invaders ATV for 60 points. People bring them now just to have like more Meltas. They can score. They're super tiny models. They're like straight up this big guy. They're like 3-4 inches. Silly. I have one for my Imperial Fist Army. And then an Outrider squad with the ATV can actually attach to them. And then they get like a response shooting, I believe, if they shoot at the Outrider squad. Then they have an Impulsor Executioner is making their comeback, guys. And then Impulsors are also making their comebacks. I like their data sheet abilities in both of these units. Keep a lookout for them just in casual kind of open play. I don't know if they'll be like, you know, GT level all the time for like winning side, but they're common nowadays. So shout out to this one. When you have that many bodies as an Orc player and you can just get stuck into Space Marines, they just don't have the answer for Green Tide. Just very few exceptions of Space Marines do. Because they're trying to do combined arms aspect. They're small arms are strength 4, and Orcs are just like, that's cool, bro. I'm just gonna run you over. So there's very few exceptions of Orc chapters. I mean, Orc Space Marine chapters that can actually deal with the straight up Horde. Because mind you, it's 110 boys plus 2 units of Kommandos. I'll tell you guys right now, when I was running my Green Tide list, it was 100 boys. And I took Gazgul Thraka because I didn't want to take Kommandos, because I didn't want to take additional bodies, because you're moving, you know, amplitude of bodies here. So shout out to John for moving this, because guys, I'm telling you, moving 110 boys and 20 Kommandos is a ton of just time management and dice rolling. So shout out to you, buddy, for managing the clock on that. But most just basic vanilla brains don't have an answer in like volume of fire and combined arms of actually being able to deal those bricks. Then his second game, he went into my boy, Mr. Matt. We've actually previewed him. So Matt's someone who's also done very well at events. He ended up taking out Mr. Matt. And, you know, Matt actually told me how it was. So in this game, Matt was taking pigs. So we have the big pigs with we have 2 beast bosses, Gazgotraka, 2 war bosses, followed by 2 units of beast Naga boys, 2 units of boys, 4 trucks, 2 units of 5 flash kits, followed by 1 Gretchen unit, 2 kill rigs, 2 mega knobs for Gaz bodyguard, 2 5-man units of knobs, followed by a Stormboy unit. Quite simply, what it is he got jailed. You know, our boy went first, against John went first against our boy Matthew, and John was like, all right, I'm gonna take these 20 commandos, I'm gonna jail you and just keep you in your parking lot, and then by the time you shoot through these guys, I've swarmed the board and you're not gonna kill me fast enough. And that's straight up what happened. How do I know? Matthew told me himself. It's one of those things that we talk about a lot on here, that it's hard to have all the tools for everything, and it's just sometimes it happens where you don't ever deal with getting jailed like that, and then when it does happen, you're like, gosh, I wish I had infiltrators, but gosh, they cost so much, 120 points. But we're seeing it repetitively here, guys, as these orc players that have finally broke through the threshold of actually going undefeated, they're bringing a lot of commandos. I'm not saying they're mandatory, I'm just saying very helpful, it seems, regardless of the detachment, because we're showing 3 detachments today. Then he goes into his third game, where he goes into the World Eaters, which you can imagine having a lot of bodies and having commandos again box up World Eaters. So again, we have Angron, Lord Invocatus, 3 units of Jackals, 2 units of 2 spawns, followed by 1, 2, 3 bricks of Terminators. These Terminators are very fast and they can hit you with the amplitude of punches. But again, we have the commandos, we have 10-man units of Grots, which if you watch him on War Games Live, John will take one of these Grot units and just chuck them up the field with these boys and start making walls. So against another melee matchup, or if he's scared of getting countercharged, he'll put commandos first in a line, then Grots and maybe 10-man units of boys, and maybe Storm Boys, and then or Storm Boys before, whatever, vice versa. But he'll make walls of these units, and then he'll have the tide behind that. So you can't really get the initiative off on the tide if you're in melee army of actually like chewing out the boys. So at first glance, you might look and be like, yeah, these bricks of Terminators are going to get +1 to wound, and they're going to get sustained, and they're going to punch really hard. And it's like, it's true, but they're going to have to first punch their way through the commandos and the boys and the Grots and the Storm Boys, and then they're going to hit the boys. If the boys haven't called one, hit them first, and the boys are re-rolling wounds, and they're and they're just trying to you punch through them. So and they have the earthy syringe. The dirty syringe is nasty. It's been doing mortal wounds with so many different armies and matchups you've seen on War Games Live. We're taking mortal wounds on these units, and you're just doing mortal wounds and killing them even faster. So shout out for that. Hard for them to deal with it, World Eaters, because they're not shooting any of our screens. But I like that Terminator list. It's kind of cool. Then we have his fourth game, where he goes into Chaos Demons. And you notice a pattern here? No combined arms and volume means you're just getting stuck in these waves, right? So he has Keeper of Secrets, another Keeper of Secrets, Shalexi Hellbane, Silax, and the Changeling, Big Brick of Nurglings, Beasts of Nurgle, a Hellflare, a Soul Grinder, which is pretty cool. 1, 2, 3 Soul Grinders, which are pretty cool. I think the Nurgling ones are better than the Slanesh. But they don't kill hordes of boys quickly. They have like some indirect, they have decent melee. They don't kill hordes of boys quickly. They do have Nurglings here, so they can at least infiltrate. But then you still have, like I said, what John does, even if you have your own infiltrator stuff on the field, like Nurglings, is one, the DM player might want to keep Nurglings alive to give them -1 to hit in hopes of surviving orcs hitting them. But if they don't, and they put them somewhere up the table and try to hide them up and just keep them safe and not really worry about actually giving an aura out, but just kind of holding position for early games, there's a chance that the other side of the table means the commandos move up. Maybe they even charge the Nurglings to create more space, and then they have the Storm Boys and then the boys and the Grots create the lines, and then the big bricks of boys come in. So you can see that kind of a pattern where he kind of pulls that off. Because again, he goes into, after he wins this game, going into Demons, where he gets an 87-point win there, right? So he goes 100, 94, 92, 87, progressively getting harder these games. It's kind of funny how you can see it in the score, because he can see that he's going into these melee armies, what he does, because in his fifth game, he goes into the Blood Angels. So this is on War Games Live. You can actually see this game. And in this game, John, and I actually suggest people definitely go, give it a good watch if you really want every DSL and see how everything goes through. Maybe you play it on 2 times or whatever it is, but you can see a Green Tide in action, how it should work, because Green Tide is very meticulous in movement. And with that being said, I'll just say it right now for anybody who's confused when you go see it. It was initially scored that the Blood Angels player won, but then we later found out that the Blood Angels player was using a stratagem incorrectly, and the Blood Angels player honorably gave himself the 20 points reduction yellow card. He called himself out and he turned himself in type of thing, which meant that John ended up winning that because the 20 point difference made it so John won. But the stratagem was a huge deal because the stratagem was giving him 2 additional attacks every time he charged, I believe, when it's only supposed to be when he's charged that you can use that strat. So that kills a lot of more boys, so it does matter. It would have changed points and blah blah blah. So shout out to the Blood Angels player, Mr. Scott Rumpel. Very, very noble of you and very, very honorable of you for that. But with that being said, it was a bold game, and you should watch it because it was close either way. Because in this game, as Green Tide typically does, Orks does, they get out early on points, and then he slowly gets chewed up. So we have Captain, and this is the new Liberator Assault Group. So we have Captain, Chaplain Terminator Arbor, Chief Mephiston, Mephiston, Commander Dante, Assault Intercessor Squad, Impulsor, 3 units of Assault Jump Packs Intercessors, 1 unit of Infiltrators, a brick of Sanguinary Gods, Scouts, 2 Terminator Squads, and then 2 Vindicators. I will tell you right now, guys, and I've said it on older videos too, Vindicators are a sleeper good unit into Green Tide because you have a hard time actually killing them. Like a very hard time because they have a 2 up armor save, their toughness, good amount of wounds. But they shoot blast in combat. So they actually chew through your boys way quicker than you want once they stick them in the table. So they might just stick them in the middle, try to put their OC on the objective, and then they start soaking up your boy bodies. When your boys start piling in, you can't kill stuff you necessarily want to kill. So it can actually be kind of problematic there. And in this game it was, not to mention heroic interventions and their just ability to kill so fast. But John pulled that one out. It was really, really good. Very close game, and just all in all, John knowing how to just maneuver his charges and take the most space possible wins him the games and the matches because he really, really denies the enemy early scoring and then comes out on top in the late game scoring. When they try to make their comeback, they're like, almost, but not enough. We shall call you almost. But like I said, again, shout out to Scott Rumpel because that was very, very noble of him to do. Going into John for calling himself out and giving him the 20-point reduction so John could continue. So when John continued, he then had to face Bryce Greenwell, which is also on More Games Live, which was Death Guard. So Death Guard making their appearance again. They've made their appearance all day this stream on every Orc list that had to go into with some sort of form of Death Guard. So if you're going to events, expect to see Death Guard. So we have an Icon Bearer, 2 Lords of Contagion, Mortarion, Tallyman, and then Typhus. So we have Typhus up here. He has mortal wounds when you're in combat with him in the shooting phase within 18 inches, He do mortal wounds to you and he rolls for it, and then he's also -1 to hit. So of course they're making you -1 to hit from their ballistic skill, weapon skill, from their contagion aura, and then they're also making you -1 to actually hit, meaning that you're -2 to hit. Pretty nasty. And then there's a Nurgling unit. It could be -3 to hit. It could be hilarious. Of course, you can't stack all that to be fully active the whole time, but it can make your weapon skill, ballistic skill change, characteristic change, and then -1 to hit. That does happen. So you're -2 in that case. But the -3 thing was only if you get +1 from your war boss. Over speaking, sorry if I confused you, but it can happen. So it can happen. So we have a cultist brick, 2 Predator Destructors. I think you guys have to be pretty, I think I have them right here. Predator Destructors, you have to be pretty familiar with these guys. They're pretty much on all Death Guard lists right now. T10, 11 wounds, 3 up armor save. They get additional AP against infantry units. They have a good amount of volume of fire from the auto cannon. Not a lot, but a decent, respectable amount in the small arms. And they all get lethal, so it can actually hurt your units. And then they get built-in las cannons. Mind you, they can get additional AP. Right here, I believe. Then on 6s and shooting, Flyer Eric Blight. So if it's on Contagion Aura, if you're on something, an objective that they have, they can make you additional AP on there. So they can stack some pretty good AP. And then other armies, they'll be minus some armor save maybe. So that's why they have a lot of these on their list, because they're looking to kill good armor save armies by stacking these defensive, these debuffs on them. Then you have 1 big brick of Death Shroud Terminators, followed by 2 3-man units of Death Shroud Terminators. So these Death Shroud Terminators T6, 2 up armor save, 3 wounds, 4 up info. They only move 4 inches, but you can do allow 4 inches. They have 2 units of plague burst. Sorry, they have 2. Excuse me. They have plague burst gauntlets with anti-infantry 4+ pistols. Very, very annoying. Torrents, very, very annoying against orcs. Were really, really good into us. And then they have sweep attacks and strike attacks. So they have good volume of attacks that have lethal. They also have a built-in -1 to wound if they're led by a character unit. So not only are they T6, but they're -1 to wound. Yikes, right? Yikes. I think. Sorry, let me read it again. If you're greater, though, of course, it's only if you're greater, so not at all times. And then you have 3 units of drones, followed by 3 individual Mephetic Blight Haulers. They're pretty cool, I think, for 90 points. Again, you bring more of these little vehicles that can just spread the contagion all over the table. They're a little hard to kill, like, reliably for their point values. And then they have, like, decent small arms, random rockets, and stuff like that. And then 2 units of Nurglings, which the whole game he was using to stack the defensive ability, so you could be -2 to hit when getting hit by the orc player. All in all, again, Joseph's strategy came into play where, if we watch him on War Games Live, you can see it unfold, which is why I recommend you replay it, where he takes his commandos, he fills up the middle of the he takes 2 different spots in the corners safely. He stages up, he takes his Storm Boys if he has to for scoring. He then layers up commandos early to get up the table. Then maybe Grots might come out, maybe some boys come out. Whatever, Storm Boys, like I said, and then he fills up the table with his green tide to start swarming, making line, touching objectives, denying primary, making charges up the middle, and just putting the characters and all the power claws into one space so he can do reliable damage and hurting the enemies just enough so that they can't kill them back fast enough, and then having just enough dudes on primary and reviving guys back on to offset it, and then reserving kind of one of those last units of boys, whether they have the weird boy in them, whether they have the weird boy in them, or whatever, they keep him in the backfield and they can walk up to the mid table, or they can try to jump to do a secondary mission because that's his warlord, not secondary, a secret mission. He didn't have to do that because he was usually ahead, right? But you can see he probably brought it for that reason. Or if you're going into knights, you don't want to give him your warlord. So he, has that kind of built into his list where he can keep one of those units of boys in reserve, that 5th bag brick, and it comes in and denies primary again, or steals primary at the bottom of the turn again, and offsets, the score enough so you can end up winning there. He did fail that charge with the 6-inch charge. He even was like, oh no, I shouldn't have burned, so I had CP so I can reroll that. That was true, and that's hard when you're on stream and you're playing this many games to do all this stuff. So shout out to John Holbrook, because he ended up winning that one. I believe it was by 3 points to Death Guard. The Death Guard player was really cool, very nice and chill about the, they were using the clock and everything, but he wasn't super stressful. He was just having a hard time scoring like the Death Guard player was. He was having a hard time scoring. And then he at the end tried to catch up, but I believe he had like a 72-point win. Or 72-point loss right there. And then John Holbrook came out with a 75-point win. Straight up board control, throwing up points, dying at his own rate of attrition that he could control best he could, and then having just enough resources left to try to score and keep playing the game was really the name of the game for John Holbrook. Setting the pace and the tone with board control was huge for him. And so shout out to John Holbrook and his green tide. Let's go over it one more time. He has 3 pain boys, 1 with bloodthirsty belligerents, 3 war bosses, 2 weird boys, 1 with brutal but cunning, a truck, 5 20-man units of boys, followed by 1 10-man unit of boys, 2 Gretchen units, 2 commando units, and then 2 5-man units of Storm Boys. So shout out to John Holbrook and the rise of the Green Tide. Whoa, that's where it's at. You get very exciting. So with that being said, everybody, very, very good outcomes for the Orks this weekend. Very happy to see that. All you guys should be excited. It's crazy that we literally have 4 detachments that you can run viably and possibly go 4-1, win RTTs, maybe even win GTs. With you have Bully Boyz, Dread Mob, War Horde, and who's Green Tide? Sorry, Green Tide, Bully Boyz, War Horde, and Dread Mob. There we go. Sorry. So great job by Orks. Very exciting for us. The fact that we have so many detachments that we can play from should excite all of you. So check out our videos, playlist, backlog, everything like that, so that you guys can get caught up in any of these stratagems, these detachments, rules interactions, how to use units. We've covered a lot of these units that are coming out right now and getting the shine and love. So I highly suggest you check them out. Thank you to everybody who helped support us. One thing else to say is that we're going to be introducing fixed our list again back onto some streams, because a lot of people ask for advice and I want to actually provide that to the community back, but we're only going to take it from members. So if you're a channel member, you can implement your list and give me a lot of context. That way I can give you a deep insight and strong advice that might be useful to other players as well. So of course, check us out to the Baron of Dice and hook us up without dice, hopefully, so you can help us out. And of course, leave a like and subscribe because it means a lot to us. So with that being said, there's only one thing to keep in mind is don't cross our wall, because